I know it's been about a month, but if you'll remember, I uploaded a audio-only video with several Dogman encounters. There was, in my opinion, the exceedingly creepy Dogman creature spotted feeding from a bin in Michigan. The description of this thing is just terrifying. Quote, "The face was hideous, blood-chilling, terror-inducing. It wasn't flat like a man's, but not long like a dog's either. It had some sort of elongated face, and a flattened, pushed-up nose, and eyes that glowed red with what I swear was their own light, not reflected light. The only light source was my headlights, which were pointed at the road, and also the yard light above it. And the glow wasn't your standard animal eye shine. It was like the colour of a hot electric burner. The mouth was by far the worst of it. It was massive. Think anglerfish style. Only the teeth were larger, broader, and weirdly shiny, almost metal-looking. I just stared at it, forcing myself to keep looking, knowing any moment I would realise that it was a mask or a trick of the light. Then it started to stand, bipedal like a man. It opened that terrifying mouth in what was clearly an act of aggression, and I floored it. And then there was the supernatural bipedal beast. This thing seemed to use some sort of telepathic warning which it projected into the mind of the hunter who came across it. This was in South Dakota. Quote, "As he headed toward the tree line, he suddenly had an overwhelming sense, and even a mental picture, of a terrifying creature slinking around behind the fence. He felt like he shouldn't go over there, but he's the kind of person who can be sort of defiant toward his own fear. And basically, he made himself go and look, regardless of his intuition. Suddenly, the exact creature he had seen in his mind's eye leaped over the fence to stand in the field before him, standing on two legs like a person, and it stared him down. He described the creature as being black and hairy, with a solid abdomen, no tapering like a person, just straight down the trunk to the hips, and it had long arms with what appeared to be claws. The head was somewhat like a wolf or a dog, with an elongated snout and ears like a bear. It stood on its hind legs for several minutes, staring at him, and its eyes held a human-like intelligence and acknowledgement. He felt very afraid and thought to himself that he would soon shoot it if it approached. But as soon as he had this thought, his mind was flooded with imagery and information that essentially boiled down to, quote, "Your gun is meaningless. You won't even get one shot off. If I want to kill you, you will die. There's nothing you can do about it. And no one will ever find out what happened to you." This terrified him, as it would. And also there was 2 reports from the UK, and the first one was being in I've got the phonetic spelling here and I'm still struggling. Aberystwyth in the UK. Quote, "We both turned around again and sped up. At this point there was an unspoken agreement that we felt if we kept calm, we would be fine. But if we panicked and ran, whatever it was would start chasing us." And in describing the creature, the witness says, "Standing probably about 100 feet away from us on the path was something that stood perfectly still, facing us. Although it was too far away to see any facial expression, I was absolutely sure it was staring straight at us. I would guess that it was at least 7 feet tall, maybe more. Wolf or bear-like features, with a thick trunk and long arms." Close quote. The next one was in Birmingham. Quote, "He glanced to his left and saw a very tall man walking parallel with him across the other side of the field. He estimated that the guy was about 7 to 8 feet tall, which made him look a little more carefully. He noticed to his surprise that the guy had what appeared to be a head in the shape of an Alsatian dog. At first, he thought maybe it was a mask of some sort, but as he looked, he could see the creature's breath coming from its snout, and there seemed to be a fluid movement as it walked. The creature was wearing a long, dark coat and never looked in Dave's direction. Dave panicked a little at this point, and decided to speed up his pace. He glanced again to his left and was alarmed to see that the dog-headed man had matched his pace, but stayed on a parallel course with him. He stayed calm and continued his brisk walk, observing the dog-headed man from the corner of his eye. If the thing changed its direction, he would run. What's interesting about these two UK cases is that both of the witnesses, or all of the witnesses, I should say, because there's 2 witnesses in the first one, they all had the instinct not to run for fear of triggering that sort of predatory prey drive that dogs have, I guess. Just found that interesting. So as soon as they got out into a public space, they felt safe again. It was like they were being stalked. That's the sensation they had. Hello and welcome to News from the Fringe. I'm Chris, and I hope everybody's doing real well. It's been a while, isn't it, since I last posted. I don't really have much of an excuse. I think everybody, all the regular viewers, know how lazy I am, and aren't really surprised that there was a month between videos. But I'm going to pick it up from where I left off. And I left off with a Dogman video. It was an audio-only video, as I said earlier. And I just wanted to bring up a few points that viewers, that you guys left in the comments, because there was a couple of experiences and there was some really good info sent to me from Skewer. Probably mispronounced your name. Skewer, maybe? And also Jericho13 left a couple of juicy little nuggets in the comment section. So I'm going to go over them a bit later. But to start off with, I just wanted to mention these 2 experiences. The first one is by a viewer, a commenter called Sue Ashwell, who's an Aussie, I believe. Well, yes, she is, because this happened in Queensland. And so she says, "The third picture on the top is like my 2 sons and myself saw back in 1987 in Queensland, Australia. My sons were 10 and 8 at the time, and it happened around 3 or 4 a.m. on the way to Warwick in Queensland. Before seeing it, we had hundreds of kangaroos everywhere on the road. They were heading west. I was following 2 semi-trucks, and they hit a kangaroo, which I nearly hit as well. I slowed right down after that. As I was travelling, and the truck's taillights disappeared ahead, we came across a cattle ramp on the road, and this thing appeared in front of the car. We were all just screaming. It stared at us as it growled, and it was drooling from its mouth. I was in a little Ford Escort, which is a very small car, and as it stood on all 4 paws, it was higher than the car. As quickly as it appeared, it disappeared. We've never forgotten that scary night." And then the mysterious Master Yoshi says that he may have witnessed a monster cat. Correction. He refers to an alien big cat, which I believe means an out-of-place big cat. This is what he says. "I can't say mine was a Dogman, but it was certainly what I believe to be an ABC, which is an alien big cat, that me and several other students and a residential supervisor from the Harvey Agricultural College in WA saw. We saw it in Nannup as we came over a crest at about 10 p.m. on our way back from a Marin fishing trip. It was like a monster black cat. I wonder what would happen if those 2 creatures ran into each other." So as much as I love hearing about Dogman encounters, I don't know anything about them. I was always under the impression that the idea was they were some sort of cryptid, some sort of hidden, lost species of animal. But Skewer and Jericho, a couple of viewers, brought to my attention in the comment section that there's this whole other theory about what they are. They both mentioned the fact that there's but there is this ancient historical writing by a Greek physician named Theseus. And he wrote this story, this account about these dog-headed men back in 400 BC. And I've got a translation of the story here. And it's only a few paragraphs, so I'll quickly read through this for you. Before I do, I'll just mention that these things are called Cynocephali. And that's the name of this tribe or this race of dog-headed men. Here we go. They speak no language, but bark like dogs, and in this manner they make themselves understood by each other. Their teeth are larger than those of dogs, their nails like those of these animals, but longer and rounder. They inhabit the mountains as far as the river Indus. Their complexion is swarthy. They are extremely just, like the rest of the Indians with whom they associate. They understand the Indian language, but are unable to converse, only barking or making signs with their hands and fingers by way of reply. They live on raw meat. They number about 120,000. The Cynocephali living on the mountains do not practice any trade, but live by hunting. When they have killed an animal, they roast it in the sun. Well, that can't be right because he just said that they live on raw meat. I don't know how good this translation is, but let's continue. They also rear numbers of sheep, goats, and asses, drinking the milk of the sheep and the whey made from it. They eat the fruit of the Siptacahora, whence amber is procured, since it is sweet. They also dry it and keep it in baskets, as the Greeks keep their dried grapes. They make rafts which they load with this fruit together, with well-cleaned purple flowers, and 260 talents of amber, with the same quantity of the purple dye, and thousands of additional talents of amber, which they send annually to the King of India. They exchange the rest for bread, flour, and cotton stuffs with the Indians, from whom they also buy swords for hunting wild beasts, bows and arrows, being very skillful in drawing the bow and hurling the spear. They cannot be defeated in war, since they inhabit lofty and inaccessible mountains. Every 5 years the king sends them a present of 300,000 bows and as many spears, 120,000 shields and 50,000 swords. They do not live in houses but in caves. They set out for the chase with bows and spears, and as they are very swift of foot, they pursue and soon overtake their quarry. The women have a bath once a month. The men do not have a bath at all, but only wash their hands. They anoint themselves 3 times a month with oil made from milk, and wipe themselves with skins. The clothes of men and women are alike, but are not skins with the hair on it, but skins tanned and very fine. The richest wear linen clothes, but they are few in number. They have no beds, but sleep on leaves or grass. He who possesses the greatest number of sheep is considered the richest. All, both men and women, have tails above their hips, like dogs, but longer and hairier. They are just, and live longer than any other men, 170, sometimes 200 years. And just to briefly add to that, I just want to bring up some points that Skewer and Jericho mentioned in the comments there. So firstly, Skewer mentioned this point, that a lot of people don't realise that they are probably the second most evidenced cryptid after the Sasquatch, and actually have more historical writings in old European texts, technically making them the most historically documented cryptid. Regarding the UK report about the dog-headed man wearing a coat, he says, quote, "The story in this video with a dog-headed man wearing a coat and following him is a classic description of a Cynocephali. They wear clothes and are people." And a point that Jericho 13 agrees on, taking it further with, quote, "They are not rare woodland creatures. They are very powerful, intelligent beings with their own nations and agendas. The atlas is incomplete. The belief that the map is a completed representation of the physical world causes ideas such as humanoid wolves to fill us with incredulity. So now I've got a expanded view on this mystery. The whole idea of a forgotten nation that's hidden from our modern society, I just find that really interesting, because there are prehistoric tribes that are still hidden from us, isolated, and still in that prehistoric state. They've been there ever since, humans began, and they've been in that unchanged state. So it's still a lot to swallow, but it's a lot more believable than werewolves or some sort of strange animal that's living out there in the bush. So I really like this idea. Thanks to Skewer and Jericho. Cheers. All right, so while doing a bit of research on this topic, I came across this news report from Knott County in the US. This is in 2020 this occurred. And here's a quick summary of the story. In February 2020, a 13-year-old boy killed in a mysterious animal attack. The minor's body was found several hundred feet up a steep hillside in a wooded area. Rain and dark conditions made it difficult for first responders to find them. Officials say that while it's being ruled as an animal attack, they still don't know what killed the boy. Police said the original call described a canine-type attack. The state medical examiner's office said the cause of death was consistent with an animal attack, but have not yet determined the exact type of animal. And here's some highlights from the news reports from the time. Or at the time. Or whatever.
I'm Emily Bennett. We begin tonight with a developing story out of Knott County. That's where state troopers tell us a child died in a suspected animal attack earlier this evening. It all happened around 6 o'clock off Kentucky 1102, also known as Montgomery Creek Road in the Emelina community. We pointed that out to you on this map.
Yeah, Emily, an incredibly hard night for a lot of people out here. I'm at the mouth of Kentucky 1102. Law enforcement just cleared the scene at that home a little bit ago. They were coming up and down the mountainside where the body of that boy was found. Now, right now, law enforcement says this is a suspected animal attack, but obviously this is an ongoing investigation, and an autopsy will have to be done to determine the exact cause of death. Now, Emily, before I send it back to you all, I do want to mention something. There is a lot of speculation on social media right now about what sort of animal might have caused this. Right now, that is nothing but speculation. The people we're talking to are the people that are working directly on this investigation. Anything else is unconfirmed and, like I said, speculation. So if you could keep that sort of stuff off social media for those people out there spreading that sort of stuff, that would be more helpful for the family and Kentucky State Police, who are continuing to work this investigation. Hopefully this autopsy will reveal, shed some light more or less on this situation. Emily?
Yes, thank you, Connor.
Good afternoon, I'm Steve Hensley. First at 4, there are still a lot of questions surrounding what killed a 13-year-old Knott County boy. Kentucky State Police are heading up the investigation. WYMT's Will Puckett has the latest.
Yeah, the spot where this attack happened is off up to my right here. I'm in the Emelina community of Knott County. The details are extremely limited right now, but what we do know and can tell you is that it happened around 6 o'clock last night. A report came in of a child attacked by some sort of animal off of Kentucky 1102. While details are extremely limited right now, we do know that there is no immediate threat to the surrounding community.
Something has happened in this community in Emelina, Knott County, and we would just urge people to be very cognizant of their surroundings. Be careful about the things that you have around your home. Any type of potential food source for a wild animal, secure those in garbage cans, containers, whatever you have to do, or not even, put them out.
So in my opinion, this is probably a tragic event involving just a common dog, like maybe a rabid dog or something like that. And the reason why I brought it up is because it's being passed around in these sort of forums as a potential Dogman attack. But if, this idea of a sort of semi-civilized, dog-headed man hidden nation, I don't think they're like these rabid werewolf type creatures. They wear clothes and all this sort of stuff, if this theory is correct. And so the idea of one of these things just mauling a kid doesn't add up to me. It doesn't feel right. So I think it's, just a tragedy with some sort of animal, like a common animal. But that's just my opinion. I'll share it with you. You guys can look into it a bit more if you like and come up with your own opinion. So I think with that being said, I'm going to end this video here. And I guess we could call it like a Dogman special or something. I do have some other news stories to share. Excuse me. I do have other news stories to share. But if I add them here right now, it's just going to take too long. You guys will get bored and click off, and, that's not cool for me, is it? Well, actually, I don't really care. But, anyway, I crap on. So with that being said, I'm going to bid you farewell, and I'll see you next time. Take care.